That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And folks, last week we lost a legend, and tonight we're here to pay homage to that said man. The man, the one of the only people to woo Miss Piggy's heart harder than Kermit the Frog, an icon of 80s and 90s comedy, Charles Grodin, Dragon. I've been on kind of a deep dive, and this is a guy where it's like you don't even really realize how much stuff he's put his fingerprints on until you go back over his career, because a lot of the times he's kind of in the background. But oh man, Dragon. So obviously with Great Muppet Caper, that's one that I feel like that's the go-to point for most people, at least our age, with the Muppets and everything. And of course, this being a Disney Channel, Muppets are a very fan favorite thing around here. So I feel like most people around here, their entry point is Great Muppets Caper. Of course, you recommended Midnight Run to me, and I did indeed watch that. And it is also probably the other high point of his career. But we'll get to that. We're going to kind of build through his entire career here. And Honeybee, the subscriber count is I'm hoping for 1,000 too. My goal is over the summer. I'm hoping for 1,000.
We get to 1,000, if assuming it still remains true. We get the community page, which is that's the hope.
And I'm also thinking about maybe possibly setting up a Patreon, but that's an entirely different conversation.
Let's not get ambitious. Let's not get greedy while we're talking Grodin.
If we're gonna do it, 1,000 would be a good number to do it at. But anyways,
anyway.
I'm terribly sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so regardless, folks, we are gathered for a sad but ultimately inevitable occasion. I had a great love for Charles Grodin, really did. Just to speak to kind of like how the man came into our lives and kind of our reaction to kind of like the news that really rocked my world, I guess a week back, it would be that I think it was a VHS tape that introduced me to Charles Grodin. It was the Great Muppet Caper VHS tape, and then Beethoven under protest, because I'm not a dog movie guy at all. It was like it was shown at school way back in the day. It was like, I don't like you're all gathered in the cafeteria. You're forced to watch a movie, and like you got outvoted essentially.
Beethoven is a '90s classic, sir.
I want to be clear. I'm just saying at the time I didn't appreciate. It was the whole thing of like. I'm just saying, by dog movie standards, it's the king.
Oh, I think by dog movie standards, it is.
I'm just saying sure. on principle, especially back. I'm saying like they're taking votes in the cafeteria for, hey, what movie should we watch? Guess who lost the vote? This guy. Anyway, so the point being, Charles Grodin, those were kind of the things I knew him from. Was Great Muppet Caper being the indelible thing, and of course, like, oh yeah, he's the grumpy guy from Beethoven. Yeah. Sure. But the thing that always struck me at Charles Grodin that I love the man for is that he was so committed and impassioned to the gag or the performance, even in the most absurd of circumstance. I mean, the man was just so clever and witty. He was smooth. He had that smooth, natural delivery you had to love. It was acting without acting almost. He made it look so easy in all the right ways. Just since then, especially since kind of rewatching the Muppets over the years, it's like you kind of like, I'm so delighted when Charles Grodin pops up, when his name pops up, when he pops, it's like, oh my god, it's like, I love this guy from Great Muppet Caper. He's shown up here, and like I'm watching movies like Dave, and it's like, hey, it's Grodin. This movie got even better. And I tell you, that passing though, let me tell you the trippy thing about Grodin's passing when I learned about it. It was. So the week before his passing, I was rewatching because of the Muppet Haunted Mansion news.
I'm so excited, but yeah,
I was rewatching one of the recent things. I like kind of recent uncovered like kind of gems I found. You and I covered a long while back. Muppets Go to Walt Disney World, in which Grodin plays the guard. He plays the guard at the gates. I completely
forgot he was in that until you mentioned it.
Yeah, and he's wonderful in it too. It's no Nick Holiday, mind you, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's what I'm saying. So, like, you gotta remember, along with Muppet Vision, that was like the last Muppet project Jim Henson did. That was kind of something special. Grodin was back in the fray for essentially one of the last packaged kind of Muppet things that Jim Henson did, and for Disney, which again just given how things ended up with the Muppets and kind of the states, and that was something special. That was the Jim Henson approved Disney days, and I was devastated. I was just devastated to learn. I'm always hated when I check the news and these familiar names pop up, or I see like a little image and I'm saying, oh look, there's someone I like, and then right to the right of them it's like, and it's listing names like Beethoven, Great Muppet Caper, died at age 86 of bone marrow cancer. It's like no, because it's just. I mean, that's the thing. It's an inevitable thing, but because you realize the years have gone by. Tiki, I never realized how much the years have gone by until I saw the photo of the man. Because like Charles Grodin, like the end, he had like the white hair. Because I've in amber in my mind's eye, he's always going to look like Nick Holliday to me, or look like Murray Blum from Dave. That's always what I'm going to think of when I see him. So just seeing like, oh my god, I mean, yeah, yes, he was getting up there, but I never would have guessed. And bone marrow cancer, who would have? I mean, my God! And so it's a loss for sure. So, and also we need to refresh.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why that keeps happening. It's a problem.
Yep.
All right. Okie dokie. So, let's get things started. The 1960s Dragon. He has a couple small roles in films that I'm probably more familiar with than you are, I imagine, right?
Yes. So just the beginnings that get us to that, just real quick, just
Go ahead.
inserted. So yeah, he studied under Uta Hagen in terms of like the form of acting. I believe that was in New York. That's where he kind of studied acting. Went to the university in Florida. I don't want to spout facts here. I'm just telling you, like the point being, the man had, I believe that's where his acting style kind of came into fray, kind of a very naturalistic acting style. And that's where he developed, kind of patented the signature style of kind of the schwarmy, glib wit, which again he perfected so well, and his mastery of timing and improv, which basically is what his big superpower. I want to tell you something. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I don't know if you've ever done like a deep dive binge on SNL or anything. I haven't. I'm just asking.
Oh man, I am. SNL is something that it's actually kind of like in my orbit recently, but no, I haven't done any sort of deep dive binges into it.
Yeah, it's all on like scroll like Peacock and Hulu and everything. It's apparently all the episodes ever are there, which is crazy. But let me tell you something. So Charles Grodin hosted an episode of SNL, and I looked at this to kind of get a gauge Charles Grodin's humor, because the really interesting thing looking back on Charles Grodin's career is like I always, there's a fondness for him, and obviously I love him for like Great Muppet Caper. When you really look at the man's career, it's like I could never put into words what exactly worked, because there was just something that worked. I couldn't put into words what he did differently.
You nailed it with the smarminess, right?
Yeah, it is. That's what I've kind of learned going back into. Yeah, he really had that swarmy kind of glib quality.
Dare I say he was almost kind of like a proto David Spade, but with a lot more class.
Sure. I mean, it's just going to be a weird comparison, but there is kind of a low key kind of Downey Jr. kind of aspect to him.
No, I can see it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So the SNL episode is really interesting because this is like way back during like season 3 of SNL back in '77.
Oh wow! Oh god!
To show you how far this is like the Belushi days. This is literally the days of Belushi and everything. And Grodin, there's kind of like it's a meta quality of that, because you don't know if the SNL guys aren't thrilled with him or not. You don't know if it seems like it's a gag they're playing into. And like Grodin's humor is like it's very fourth wall. Basically, he was a more well received Andy Kaufman.
Oh, okay.
On that show, and that basically he's the one he's calling out the cue cards and everything, which you imagine they hate, and it's unclear if they truly hate it if they're playing along.
There's a moment like that in Billy Crystal's new movie, actually, where he's calling out the cue card guy on an SNL style show.
That's like his whole basically the idea. Charles Grodin is kind of playing he's playing very greenly. He didn't show up to any of the rehearsals because he was busy getting the rest of the cast gifts. So he's very inconsiderate yet considerate at the same time. It's like next level humor is what I'm saying. It's kind of what he brought to the table, is going back to the SNL days. And the man was always thinking. And yes, going just to the 60s, like the man, his first appearance, oddly enough, since I'm mentioning kind of like the Walt Disney World at all, technically was a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't really have I don't really, like, I haven't seen 20,000 Leagues in a long time, but I don't really remember much of him.
Yeah, it's a bit part. It wasn't
Yeah,
credited. It was
that's
just,
what I
kind of on,
figured.
I believe, like, probably undersea with the rest of them.
Probably one of the background seamen, if you will.
I would imagine, but so then he gets his first. I'd say there's like a movie in between, but then he gets the first real role in a very iconic '60s movie, Tiki.
Which I have stuff to say about.
I'm sure you do. Tell the folks.
All right, so Rosemary's Baby, Dragon. Oh my god, I remember the first time I saw this thing, it really freaked me out. Like, it's one of those horror movies where it doesn't have any sort of jump scares at all, but it's just like just a mood piece, basically. It's just a very oppressive mood piece. And Grodin plays the doctor, and I don't really remember a ton about him, but what I do remember about him is that the doctor was like very off-putting and invasive about everything, because you know the basic premise of Rosemary's Baby, right? Or do you not?
You're gonna have to refresh me because I have a
okay. It's very simple. It's very simple, Dragon. Mia Farrow gets pregnant,
yeah,
and her whole apartment complex is a satanic cult that is basically like grooming her to birth the son of Satan.
See, that part I remember. The son of Satan. I just remember that. I forgot that the apartment was an apartment full of Satan.
The apartment, and like literally everyone in the apartment complex is like, are like Satanists. Like, it's kind of like a twist that gets revealed throughout the movie. So Grodin is kind of like
He's like a red herring, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah, because from what I remember, he's almost kind of like a bit of a dark comic relief of like, oh man, there's something really off with this doctor. Like, he's getting a little too personal with this woman and asking a little too many questions about her, her sex history and everything. But of course, they want to know all that because of the satanic cult. So
it's
like
a bit of an allegory for kind of how sexuality was viewed in the '60s, I'm sure.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, that movie is very politically charged, indeed. But yeah. So yes, that was I of course when I watched that movie, I didn't even register like, hey, that's the guy from Great Muppet Caper. But but yeah, definitely a dark role for sure.
So mid 50s and like kind of late 60s, Grodin, he's in the movies. So he's in the movies, but he doesn't quite have his movie yet, and that brings us to the 70s.
Yep. And so let's see. So tell me about the Heartbreak Kid, Dragon, because that's something I didn't really get to in my research.
Yeah, this is on YouTube, Tiki. You should really check it out. Let me tell you. Okay, so first of all, let me just kind of set the stage. So Grodin at this point in the 70s, the transitioning point from the 60s to 70s, Grodin's doing a lot of theater, actually. He actually directed theater as well. He was really good at it, from what I hear. He never wanted to direct in a lot like film or television, at least for film, from my understanding.
I can say, coming from someone who tried to direct theater back in high school, it's super stressful, but super rewarding. So I can see it.
You want to hear a quick funny story?
What?
Okay, so Grodin, when he was on the set of Great Muppet Caper, which they shot in London, given that takes place there, and Elstree and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so he mentions this fact because he's been doing theater and he loves doing theater, but he would never, basically if you would direct a film, you're going to age like 1,000 years in a day or something along those lines. Sure. And he said this to a young woman on the production. This young woman's father was a very notable director. Would you care to take a stab at who it was?
A very notable director of theater?
Well, no, it's very notable film director, Tiki.
Oh, very notable film director.
Think London, Tiki.
Okay, Stanley Kubrick.
Yes, Stanley Kubrick's daughter.
Oh, man. That's great.
It's just like, my father's a director. Who's your father? Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, arguably, still to this day, probably one of the best directors of all time, so.
Yep, Nolan's rock star. Okay. So
there's a lot of people's rock stars.
No, he is. I just love the fact that Nolan, like the god among men of kind of directors in today's circle.
I feel like Nolan is. This is another conversation, but I feel like Nolan is kind of like, at this point, he's sort of carved out a niche for himself, where his style is different enough from Kubrick. Whereas I feel like the real filmmaker who's just like very much just like lampooning Kubrick almost is Paul Thomas Anderson. But that's a different conversation. Moving on.
Anyway, so the point being, so he's doing theater at the time, and he's starting to get the feature roles are starting to pick up steam. With first off, he does Catch-22. That's the one that opens doors for him. So he has Catch-22. It's got a good, it's got a solid cast in there.
I read the book back in high school, but I haven't seen the movie.
Well, yeah, this was the original film adaptation of it. And
Uh-huh.
he's where he befriended, I believe, Paul Simon through Art Garfunkel. Like
Oh,
that's how they
nice.
met each other in the movie. He has good famous friends throughout the years.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the point being, he has a part amongst a very solid cast. He's like one of the Air Force soldiers, and again, the point being, Grodin's getting some adaptations and kind of like stuff, kind of in kind of the theater world, if you will. So along with assumedly through his theater connections, and just kind of him picking up steam, he gets his first starring role, which is by a movie that is written by Neil Simon. I don't believe it's a play that Neil Simon wrote that was adapted, but just Neil Simon writing a movie, The Heartbreak Kid.
Mhm.
So it's The Heartbreak Kid is a story that on its face should never work, but because it's about a man cheating on his wife, and you're supposed to root for the guy. And
Yeah, I totally agree with the sentiment.
now,
But
I saw the remake of this before I saw the original. The remake is god awful. The remake's the one with Ben Stiller and Malin Ackerman. It's not good. I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to see
what's the
something.
remake called?
Let's still The Heartbreak Kid. It's just
Oh, it's
2005.
wait, the Heartbreak Kid. Oh, I think I saw it. I
Right?
saw it.
So that's what
Oh,
the Fairley.
man.
So the Fairley brothers directed that.
Yes,
And
yes. Oh man, I did see it back in the
and
day.
basically
Oh wow.
they tried to something about Mary the Heartbreak Kid.
Yup,
That's pretty much what they did.
Oh god.
So
Oh, you're
I
bringing
saw
back
that
memories
too.
for me, Dragon.
And it was not great. So Tiki, this is the good original version they were trying to adapt, and they failed
Wow.
miserably at.
Oh,
So let me tell you
just,
why.
mentioning that movie just shot me to life. Oh God,
Right.
oh wow, that movie was terrible.
I know,
Oh,
right? It was
God.
awful. It was very. That's the thing. Like, I can see it when I watch this, and knowing that in comparison, like, I see where they took the scenes of this, completely ran them into the ground. Like, my God,
That's great.
like everything.
Oh wow.
Okay. So let me tell you why the original works and the remake bombs, basically through Grodin. Okay, so Grodin is the make or break factor, because Grodin made an unlikable character charming, because basically what he did throughout the film is he was relentless in that he was kind of that he was a wheel and dealer. You know, he was definitely he just kind of got, he's 5 days into his wedding. Like, you got married, and so 5 days into the honeymoon, every man's worst nightmare occurs. We have the realization, maybe I married the wrong woman. And on his honeymoon, he meets, I believe Sybil Shepherd's her name. Meets Sybil Shepherd's character, and basically just he becomes enamored with her, and he's flirting with her. And again, he basically is her father very justifiably is voicing kind of the objective consensus, like, no, you're crazy. This is wrong. What are you doing?
Right.
Because he just comes out and says, I'd like to pursue your daughter, even though I'm still technically married to my wife. I'm trying to end that. Anyways, it's a great. This is the one that really
made my attention, Dragon. I need to seek this out. This
long story short,
Grodin role.
This made his career. This is the one that put him on the map. That's the big thing. So it also gave him the reputation of like what you'd be getting from Charles Grodin performance. Now he's gonna win you over, even if he's gonna play either a jerk or just kind of like a. Again, he persevere. It's like he persevered through the unlikability back to charm, which is astonishing. Anyway, so he's doing stuff like Heaven Can Wait in the Meantime and all that sort of stuff, and he gets films like the remake of King Kong, Kong 76.
Yeah, now does he plays the Carl Denham style character?
Yeah,
right?
He plays the modern.
I
modern
really
update.
don't like how that movie. You know me and my thoughts on that movie. I looked up a couple clips, and even then I was like, this is the Carl Denham character, right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's essentially from what. Now, by mind, you would have more of an insight on this one than I do, because it's been a while for both of us on this.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I've just never been a fan of this one. Even as a kid, the best thing that ever came out of this one is the King Kong encounter.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, when I think Kong 76, I love the production values. That's the main takeaway. I love like the idea of like doing Kong in a suit and doing it right, which they did here. Anyway, so he plays Fred Wilson, who essentially is the update on Carl Denham, and basically, from what I understand, it's like there's like an oil thing instead of like a let's make a movie, and basically it's so ridiculous.
Which is exactly where that movie falls apart, because the let's make a movie thing is like one of the big factors with King Kong. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of the whole story.
And again, the thing is, Grodin is kind of saddled with, again, it's a big role, and he has to make the really dumb decision, let's take Kong back with us. And in doing so,
it's not one of his best roles.
Do you remember what the bad decision was?
No,
it's really bad. Okay, I'm going to tell you. It's really bad. It gets the bright idea after like they've encountered Kong, huh? They're going to use King Kong as a mascot for the oil company, like the gas station tiger thing.
Are you serious?
It's a line. If you look up the clip, they literally.
So you're saying that they're actually getting used like the live action, like the real life Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy! Oh,
that's why he's in like the giant.
That's a lot to take in.
One of the one of the really funny things Grodin did before he met his untimely fate in that film was when he did the big moment where he's presenting Kong in front of the masses, again as a mascot in this case. Literally, like the gorilla.
I need to see that scene. I how do I not remember this? This should have stuck out like a sore thumb in my memory as a kid.
Tiki, what's so genius about this dude is that he literally made Kong into like the parody that Kong would become, like, buy our tires, the giant gorilla,
right, yeah,
and they did it in the actual Kong movie. Basically, he puts him in an unbreakable cage, which again is basically as Kong is breaking out.
Yeah, if Kong is ever chained up anywhere, folks, that's like, it's not gonna happen. Rule of thumb.
That's the hilarious thing that Grodin does, though. Throughout the scene, as Kong is very clearly endangering the public, guys, it's fine. It's an unbreakable cage. He's still shackled, even though he's progressively, very obviously breaking out. It's really funny.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that rounds out. The point is, Grodin's appearing a lot in the 70s, doing SNL and that sort of stuff. So then the 80s is where Grodin makes his big boom. This is where Grodin really takes off.
Oh, Charles! Wow, that actually came out really well for a change.
Yes, it did. So Grodin, in my opinion, it's kind of weird how this worked out, because if you look at it, like 81 and 88 is when these movies come out. Grodin gives his two best performances at his, kind of his career height, if you will, at the start and end of the 80s.
Dragon, you're going to absolutely think I'm crazy, but I think in terms of comedy, his best performance is actually Clifford.
I mean, he is the best part of that film.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm just saying, looking at it from a purely comedy point of view. Anyways, go ahead.
So we've been throwing out Great Muppet Caper a lot. Let's talk about why it was so special. So
it's the relationship, Dragon. It's the relationship with Piggy.
Yes,
I mean, in all seriousness, it's just like it's. Charles Grodin, simply put, he is the only man to come toe-to-toe for Miss Piggy's affections with Kermit. I mean, there's other people, there's a whole, like, oh, Christopher. But, but I feel like Charles Grodin has by far gotten the closest, right?
Absolutely. And there's the thing. My go-to is always going to be Great Muppet Caper for how he committed to the performance that he gives in that film as Nick Holiday. He's kind of he's a jewel thief brother of Lady Holiday who basically on the job becomes, and this is my favorite part, he becomes genuinely very, so truly infatuated, head over heels in love.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Miss Piggy. And if you look back at those scenes, again, I love Great Muppet Caper. You go back to those scenes, Grodin is giving... Again, to Miss Piggy.
He is in it, right? He is in it.
If you look at the scene where he makes his move on Miss Piggy, like officially, before he's just marveling at her utterly, and he's just like, who's that? And he sees the logo. But when he actually makes the move on Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog enters the fray, it's like they play it like such an adult scene. It's such a It's like, again, you feel heartbroken for him, and it's like, it's just he's playing it so very genuinely. That was kind of the key of the Heartbreak Kid too. Even though he's playing an insane character, he grounded it with this an utter sincerity that he brought here with this love story. And you know what? Here's what brought that performance about. I learned this. So Jim Henson, he loved Jim Henson as director. What Jim Henson did is he gave him essentially the model of you're slippery but cute. Give him the direction of slippery but cute, and that crystallized everything he needed. And that again, clear. And of course, I love the fun stuff with him and Lady Holiday. Diana Rigg, who unfortunately, is also not with us anymore. The scene, it feels like thieves are breathing down my neck. You literally breathe. Thieves aren't breathing down your neck. Just cracks me up. My go-to Grodin line. It's like thieves aren't breathing down your neck. It's anyway. But yeah. So and also. Claim to fame before we move on. One of the only, I want to say the only villain who's ever held Kermit the Frog at gunpoint.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But Nick, why are you doing this? I'm a villain. It's pretty clear and simple, don't you think?
Oh God!
He's so perfect in that movie, and by the way, during all the capers, he's wearing the same socks. He's wearing the same cheesy 70s looking socks.
Oh
anyway,
man.
I'm drifting off focus. So as much as we're loving Grodin here, I want to insert this in here. This is a thing that kind of made me crestfallen looking back on Grodin's career.
Okay.
The critics were always so harsh on Grodin's films.
Really?
The critics never showed him proper love. And
like even something like Midnight Run?
No. That's what I'm saying. The two exceptions being Great Muppet Caper and Midnight Run. Those were career highlights on all levels for him.
Sure.
That worked wonders. But I'm saying outside of, again, the peak of the 80s for him, and I'm not saying he got good reviews for Heartbreak Kid, but I'm saying particularly through the 80s and the 90s.
Let's face it, though, as much as I love Clifford, can you really blame the critics on Clifford?
That's what I'm saying.
I love Clifford to death, but...
Yeah, through the 80s and the 90s, and I believe even they admitted, he was good in Clifford, from what I recall. But anyway, yeah, the critics, they just like, for example, in movies like The Lonely Guy and Ishtar, which are legitimately they're really good. They're good films. I'll admit, though, I'm just saying they look like good films. I would love to have watched them, but they were not available to me at the time. I would have loved to go to them. Like Lonely Guy looks hilarious.
Uh-huh.
But
although I will admit I'm sorry, but that's a terrible title. I'm just saying it's not an eye-catching title, Dragon. It's really not.
Fair enough. And yeah, like there's like Kevin Smith. There's a movie that he did that Kevin Smith was really hyping up that also did not got him like a Razzie Award, which I felt was like really, and that just
fuck the Razzies. Honestly, the Razzies are ridiculous. The Razzies have less legitimacy than the Oscars, and that's saying something.
Sure. And that's what I'm saying. It just felt like it's a shame because Grodin's giving a really great performance. And a lot of those movies, it was unwarranted, kind of like slams against them. It felt like. It was like, anyways, I'm just saying, I wanted to, like, F the critics, Grodin was great. Okay, so, with the exception of Clifford mea culpa, guys. You're right on Clifford. Anyway, so let's talk about Midnight Run.
Even in Clifford, he was great.
He was great in Clifford, yes. And we'll get to that. All right, so let's talk... Let's talk Midnight Run. Honeybee, we're talking about Midnight Run. So you missed the Great Muppet Caper. We've been talking about that a lot, though. So we're now talking about Midnight Run.
Yes. So
probably the other peak of Charles Grodin's career, and a great film.
But I mean, this is it's not just Charles Grodin who's carrying. Of course, it's not Charles Grodin who's carrying in Muppets either. It's obviously the Muppets themselves that are carrying that movie as well. But with this, it's got such a great cast. Of course, Robert De Niro is the big, co-starring lead. Dragon, this feels like this is such a classic. Like, I'm surprised that I haven't seen it already because it just feels like such a staple of 80s like buddy travel movies, like Odd Couple, kind of like Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, like, that kind of stuff. Like it's got such a classic 80s buddy comedy feel to it. And I don't know. I love it. To me, it kind of feels like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles meets the Blues Brothers. Like it's kind of like a marriage of those two things. Where it's like the odd couple dynamic, the people that don't want to be with each other but are kind of forced to be with, out of circumstance, mixed with just the domino effect, like just the tumbling domino of action hijinks that Blues Brothers had.
Absolutely. And a fun fact, just again with the upper echelon of kind of the 80s buddy movies, this very much was an influence on Toy Story. It was this and the Defiant Ones in 48 Hours. Like these were the go-tos for like kind of
Story. Really?
Yes, this was one of the very big. I mean, again, this.
Explain that one.
Well, I'm just saying in terms
of like the odd couple dynamic.
Yeah, in terms of the odd couple buddy movie. And Toy Story fundamentally obviously is a buddy movie, and basically it's kind of taking that and making more of a road movie. But it's in Toy Story's case, it's just more of the buddy movie. But yeah, basically the two characters who parenthetically dislike each other so much from the beginning, and then of course by the end they're besties.
Right.
So fun fact, we've kind of built to this oddly in the kind of the things that we've covered, but so this was De Niro's first comedy.
Yep.
And the movie his first comedy was supposed to be a different movie that we've covered. It was supposed to be Big.
Oh wow! Oh, that's that would have been a different movie.
Yeah, Penny Marshall wanted De Niro, and basically things didn't work out, and then we got Tom Hanks in that. But yeah, so this movie went through. We almost didn't get Grodin in this movie. They went through so many permutations of who to fill the other role in. Like they were going to go for Cher for like the sex appeal. They were going to go Robin Williams, Bruce Willis. They were going through all sorts of things. Which just would not have. I don't think would have worked as well. And just De Niro to this day.
I mean, I could like Robin Williams is like that's tantalizing.
Yeah, tantalizing, but I don't think it would have worked though.
I don't think it would have worked as well.
Because he's too funny for De Niro. You know, it's like you need like kind of the reserve. You need someone who you can kind of get on De Niro's side. Like, yeah, this guy, he's a little much. But yeah, I mean, De Niro to this day, he credits the success of this film to Charles Grodin because Grodin really kind of got De Niro out of his shell with the whole, basically with his timing in the end. There's a lot of improvisation.
Yeah.
Like the big scene the big hilarious scene that kind of bonds them together before the watch conversation. Hey, this is completely made up. Like, hey, Jack, you ever have sex with an animal? That's him saying something to break De Niro, which kind of got them both laughing and kind of getting along. And the other big influence, I mean, outside of Toy Story, the one I should have led with, inspiration for Bagman from Better Call Saul season 5. Very direct model for that episode entirely. You know, Jonathan Banks, you know, as the De Niro character, and Jimmy McGillis, the Grodin, as the Grodin character. But yeah, I just kind of occurs to me that Grodin is very Saul Goodman-esque in this film, isn't he? Yeah, and just got some. I love all like the great reveals, how we soften them up over the course with De Niro, and I mean, like somebody like the tip gag always gets me. Like, as they're about to leave after they've paid for this meal, like, hey, you can't leave 13. You can't leave. You gotta add more money to that tip. Like, no, it's 13%. Yeah, it's supposed to be 15%. These people live on tips. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's what I love about the character. The character is like he's the criminal in the movie, but he's just like he's like the most likable criminal ever. Dragon.
I know, and I love it.
I mean, it's like I love the Robin Hood quality about him too. That's the thing that I feel like Robin Williams would have. Like I feel like the more dramatic, soft-spoken side of Robin Williams that he has, I feel like he would have played into that side of the character, the Robin Hood side. But go ahead.
Yeah, and of course he has like again, like he's just playing it so he's conning him in the nicest way possible too. Like, I can't fly, and of course we have the big pilot reveal. Like, oh my god, he can fly! You can fly! I didn't feel it was right to share it with you.
They fly now.
Yeah, and Grodin's playing layers, and he's so confident that he's going to escape through the movie. I'm going to give you the slip at some point because he knew he had the plane thing in his back pocket. He knew that, and they have like he can just change on a dime, like he does like the litmus test to steal the $20 bills, which is great. Like, did you use the litmus configuration test? He sounds so convincing, and I love him. I think Midnight Run always boils down to the fact that you have to earn your ending there, because it's going to seem really ridiculous if De Niro, being very legitimate, is going to do what he does at the end of that film. For him, it's such an earned ending with that beautiful delivery of "see you on the other side," and then he turns and he pulls a bad exit. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, so anyways, I could be glowing about Midnight Run all one day. Truly a wonderful film, and deserves all the praise that it gets. Truly. So then we transition to the 90s. So again, I can't verify this, but I would imagine he moved to the safer, family-friendly films in that direction because he had such a great time working on The Great Muppet Caper. It's a guess, mind you, but
I could see that. And
it was, again, a great success for him compared to the critics kind of like not really fully loving what he's doing outside of Midnight Run. So we get something like we get Beethoven.
And like we said, I mean, Beethoven, it's like, I feel like of all the 90s kids movies, he's the best part, right? He kind of became the prototypical 90s grumpy dad, which I kind of love about his performance.
Either grumpy dad or grumpy uncle, yeah.
Right. And so, Beethoven, I easily top tier dog movie, easily, right? I mean, we already said this, but just to confirm it.
Yeah. And again, it's a very easy thing for Grodin to get frustrated at before we have a more painful thing for Grodin to get frustrated at. It's like, that's the key formula in the 90s for Grodin. Like, we need something to get really frustrated at.
Sure, exactly. Oh,
I mean, that is pretty much the formula
thing for Grodin to get frustrated at is right around the corner.
I mean, most of the stuff I call them on the '90s movies with Grodin. Again, it's pretty much like that's the formula. It's like, okay, Grodin's gonna get real peeved at somebody, whether it be like the couch trip or something. He's basically playing a therapist, a doctor who goes crazy and stuff like that. Is because he's getting really frustrated at something.
Okay, really quick, Dragon. I'm looking up his filmography. I actually did see that Ishtar movie.
Oh, really? Do you remember it being good?
Yeah, I do remember it. I do remember looking it up. Like, wait a minute, this isn't that bad. This is actually kind of fun. Dustin Hoffman co-stars with him.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of which, it seems like old times. That's the Kevin Smith. See, when Grodin died, Kevin Smith posted something about he posted a scene from It Seems Like Old Times. That's Chevy Chase and I forget the lady in that. Goldie Hawn. It's Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. Anyway, so that's what I was thinking of earlier. Okay, yeah. So speaking of the family-friendly stuff, let's talk about the Cranium Command, Tiki.
Yes. Oh man. So yeah. So he is the left brain in Cranium Command, Dragon, and Cranium Command is just iconic, dude. It really is. I don't really have a ton to say about it.
It's a great attraction, I got to admit.
I mean, it's obviously the inspiration for Inside Out. I don't care what anyone, that it's all I think Inside Out kind of like improves upon the foundation set by Cranium Command, but still, and then of course Cranium Command, we have the Where's Buzzy mystery. Do you know about that?
I'm a little fuzzy on the Where's Buzzy mystery, but
okay. So just really quick, Buzzy is the animatronic that's in Cranium Command. The commander,
right?
And Dragon, he went missing, and nobody knows where he is. Like someone just stole him one day.
Oh my god! Really?
Yeah. Like they showed up one day, and it was like a mess of hacked off wires and stuff. So yeah, where's Buzzy? Anyways, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so he's I love the set.
He's got a classic. He's got a classic Epcot energy to him, Dragon. I feel like he's the element of the attraction that feels very much the most like, oh, we're in an Epcot Center ride, everyone. I'm the left brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love the set that he's into, like all the cubes and everything. He's all about again the logic and order and the risk assessment part of the of the brain. It's great. It's. Again, he's just wonderfully dry in that role. It seems great. And again, I'd imagine again this is per like him doing the Walt the Muppets at Walt Disney World thing. Perhaps I mean that was in '89. This is like, and I imagine maybe they shot that stuff a year in advance. Perhaps timing. I don't know. I'm just imagining perhaps that he's in the Disney neck of the woods. Perhaps. For things.
I mean, with Disney, it's like, they tend to kind of like get people in their orbit and then use them a lot. So that's probably what happened.
I mentioned at the top, just to insert just a little bit here, because we don't really have a whole lot to say about Cranium Command. I'd say he was great in that. Is that, again, as the guard, he's played this bumbling guard in the Muppets at Walt Disney World, which I encourage everyone to check out, because unfortunately that's not on Disney Plus, that's on YouTube.
It's easily accessible on YouTube, though, so.
Yes, it's definitely worth checking out, folks, especially if you love it.
Should be on Disney Plus, but, I'm not complaining. I'm just not.
So basically, he's teamed up with Rizzo the Rat to find the Kismet Gang. He's playing such an incompetent guard, he's just not realizing it's Kermit the Frog. He just keeps calling him the Kismet Gang. And of course, he just the realization that that Kermit the Frog might know Mickey Mouse, and he gets demoted to scraping gum. It's great. And I heard a really eerie detail about the shoot for this.
Really, an eerie detail.
Ooh, it's an eerie ending to the what. Oh, so after they shot this, I should say. So when Jim Henson passed, I believe Charles Grodin was doing some theater. He was doing some sort of event. And, he was going over a script. I think he was about to go on, or he was preparing to go on or something. And basically he was accosted by, some, reporters, and they were asking like his thoughts. That's how he learned of Jim Henson's passing. He's really torn up about it. And the week before, Jim Henson had sent him a letter. And he got it like when he got home, or like he got like that the week after Jim Henson passed is when he got the letter.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Yikes. It was like really. So again, presumably because they had shot the Muppets at Walt Disney World thing, or whenever that was done, like the last crossover, like it was really kind of an eerie look. Oh my god, like kind of like your friend from beyond the grave saying hello. It's
Sure, yeah.
Right. So let's see. So I'm very curious to get your thoughts on Dave.
I don't have many thoughts, Dragon, honestly. I mean, it looks like a great movie, but I haven't seen the whole thing, so,
Just for the folks at home, I'm dying for them to see the movie, Dave. That's just
I know you are, and I'll get there.
I know, but
by all intents and purposes, that payoff is great.
That is. It's just Dave is like one of the most pleasant films ever, and Grodin has his nice role. It's a small role. It's like he pops up here and there, but
that's why I didn't really make it a priority to watch it in my research. But
I'm aware it was. Again, it's a very small role. But it's him playing kind of this yet again another friendly accountant.
Right.
Friendly accountants. Absolutely. Grodin's forte. He's playing a good friend with a good heart. He helps balance the federal budget, essentially, for the nation to save a children's center, which in real life was a real concern for Charles Grodin. He really did care about children's centers, by the way. So, you're kind of calling him out like on the craziness of like pretending to be the president, like, get out of here now while you can. And of course, sucker for bratwurst. Just think it's a cute little role that plays basically to my favorite scene in the film. So always kind of rung true with me. It kind of helps like do a really good thing for the nation, basically calling out like, why are we spending so much money on things we don't need?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so before we get to the big one, I know you're itching to talk about. Let's get through this one. I want to talk about It Runs in the Family. Do you recall ever seeing that? Or it's also called My Summer Story. It has two titles. So there's It Runs in the Family and My Summer Story. No bells.
No idea.
Okay, very simple. This is the sequel to Christmas Story. The proper sequel, not the stupid like Christmas Story 2 movie. This is the actual one that is directed by the same guy, directed by Blake. Bob Clark.
Okay. Yes, I have heard of this. Yeah.
And also, as a lead into your thing, co-stars Mary Steenburgen.
Okay.
So it's and Kieran Culkin, Wallace from
sure. God, he must have been super young.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He plays the Ralphie, the Ralph Parker role.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he plays the old man. He plays the Darren McGavin role, and I gotta tell you, it's in good hands. Transitioning from Darren McGavin to him, and he basically is the thing. Charles Grodin again. They're casting pretty much for the old man hates his neighbors, the hillbillies, the Bumpinsons, and that's pretty much what we do here. Grodin hates.
He is kind of like the prototypical '90s grumpy neighbor. So
they cast again. Very wonderfully fitting into the niche there, where again he hates those Bumpses and he wants to go fishing. Those were his two imperatives in that whole movie. He wants to go fishing.
Right.
It's very much it's at the core. It's a father-son fishing story, which again maybe they're light shades of Goofy movie, not to the same extent by any means, but like little shades. All right, so of course, Mary Steenburgen, Charles Grodin, we're fresh on the image, and who do we got?
Clifford, oh my God, Dragon. Okay, I'm just gonna throw it to you.
All right. Okay. Sorry, Honeybee has some comments and again visual.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Honeybee says I gotta watch Jenny Nicholson's video on it so you can become fully informed. Oh, on the Buzzy thing. Oh yes, the Buzzy.
Oh yes. Yeah. She does a good video.
Yeah, and a lot. Honeybee says a lot of Muppet films aren't on Disney Plus. Well, if I recall, Muppets from Space isn't on Disney Plus, right? Is that?
I'm sure a lot of the TV Muppet movies aren't either. That's probably what they're referring to.
I know why a very Muppet Christmas isn't on there because they have like that NBC gag, which I'm
Wizard
sure
of Oz as well.
Yeah.
But
that works.
Really asking for that one.
Anyway, so Clifford. Sorry, getting back on post. So Clifford, a rather infamous film that has somehow developed a cult following, as my associate here can vouch for.
Only in the very, very niche podcast, the Ride community, Dragon. I really don't know any other community it's popped up in. It's still very niche.
Yeah, so Clifford, long story short, Clifford is not a good movie, really. It's not.
Okay, but first of all, Dragon, I need to know your take on that fake theme park.
That's what I'm saying. I want to make this clear. The third act
is wonderful, right?
Yes, the third act's great, and again, that's where Grodin gets the chance to shine. Again, played off of a great setting, and again, a really great setting when building up the whole movie. Which again, I'm not crazy about the build up, but I like that. I like the destination, like the whole dinosaur world.
Dinosaur World, in my opinion, like Podcast The Ride did a tier ranking, and this is where I first found out about the movie. And they put this as the top theme park in all of film, and I honestly have to tend to agree. Like, my heart kind of goes to Euro Reptar Land, Dragon, not gonna lie, but this is easily like in the top 3.
Yeah, we basically use a theme park to torture somebody.
Yes. Oh God, it's Dragon. What I love so much, why I think that this is Charles Grodin's best comedic role, is that I feel like it takes everything that we've known about him through the '90s and just amps it up to 11. Like
we turn it into a psychodrama.
Pretty much,
which is a really great take on. I say I cannot fight the fact that Charles Grodin. Also, by the way, I wonder, because they love their pop culture on SpongeBob, at least the early years. I gotta wonder, did they get the whole chocolate from I need chocolate,
very possibly.
Actually, I wonder.
Bring it up.
If they got the chocolate guy from the Chocolate Salesman episode. The Chocolate with Nuts, I think it's called.
But yes, I mean, Martin Short is actively trying to kill the movie. Yes, I'm not going to lie about that.
I'm absolutely on Grodin's side in this film, even though he's using.
That's why I love the movie, Dragon. That's exactly, you nailed it right there. That's exactly why I think the movie actually works, in spite of itself, is because I feel like Charles Grodin is supposed to be the villain, but it's no, Clifford is the villain in that movie, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the dude causes so much shit. It's like as far as I'm concerned, there's no way to watch that movie and not root for Grodin.
Absolutely, and we have he's calling him Little Hitler, and it's very apt though, given what he does in that film. That kid, kid in quotes, because Martin Short on his knees. Let's be honest. But it's again, Charles Grodin is the only sufferable thing in that film, and Act 3 again is a really great psychodrama, and again very well shot.
Yeah, essentially, Act 3 is basically just him torturing Clifford by going on the roller coaster over and over and over, and then Grodin is just
speeding it up.
He's milking it so hard. He is loving it so much, Dragon. It's he is taking such glee in this kid's torture, and what I love about it is that I feel that whole moment, that whole set piece, like I said, it's awesome. I feel Euro Reptar Land is probably still my favorite theme park, but that coaster might be the all-time best ride ever conceptualized for any movie. It's insanely good. But we in the audience are we are totally with it. We're just yes, Grodin, you get that little punk.
Yes, and again, it's so horrible, but again, it's a very black comedy. It's very much, you want this fake child to die. You do, you just really do. You want him to die, and because again, I love that we brought Grodin to this point of he ruined his life. He ruined it beyond recognition. I just love just Grodin just being completely not giving a crap. Just this element of I have nothing left to lose. He's yelling at his boss, Dabney Coleman. By the way, he's real life friends with Dabney Coleman. You know Dabney Coleman, who Dabney Coleman is from your nostalgic childhood, don't you?
Name sounds incredibly familiar.
It should be, sir. That's Principal Prickly.
Oh yeah, of course, sure.
Anyway, so I'm sorry, but yes, basically this man is just having a mental breakdown, just to the point where he's with a smile and says, "This little guy wants to go to Dinosaur World," and I just love the back and forth. So now when Clifford's dishing it out, now Grodin's he can kind of go at him with I'm not trying to please you anymore. He's how many? It's just again, just putting on the front of how long do you think they'll give you for kidnapping me? I wouldn't wager a guess. And he's just sends him on. I don't even know if that's the line. He sends him on through, and then of course, but here's the thing: it's so great. This just shows you how good an actor Grodin is. After all of that insanity, we hit the great moral quandary of do I save the kid from basically dying in the film? And I just love Grodin gives that exasperate after he saves his bacon. He kind of, I'm sorry, spoiler folks. He saves the kid. We don't kill him off. It's not it's not a Tom Green movie.
Oh God.
So anyway, so after he chews the kid out, basically the whole what if you got your hands on some plutonium? I don't. The feeling is what a normal child does. He just has a great moment of just honest reflection of, he's no one's ever talked to me like that, or basically, I'm sorry, I'm not doing a good job explaining, but I love the point where Grodin gets to saying, it's your choice. Come with me. Don't come with me. Make your choice. And he just kind of walks off and leaves the kid the stew. I just love that moment of him just like putting like, I don't care what you do. You screwed me over in every which way. It's your choice. You want to be a productive member of society. Make the choice. Don't make us suffer like hoping we can influence you because clearly we can't.
Right, exactly.
Just love the exasperation and just kind of just the honest, again, the sincerity of performance. The key to growing sincerity within the absurdity.
Yeah, this is like the absolutely most absurd thing we've ever seen him involved in, so.
All right, so that transitions us to basically towards the end, kind of the last decade or so of Grodin, which basically, I want to talk about a shift in the TV, which starts in the late 90s. So literally after Clifford, Grodin kind of retires after he has a run on television to spend time with his family. So he made the shift from film to television and other mediums. He actually there was the Charles Grodin show, which you can find a few episodes of if you look online. It's he took over Tom Schneider's old show, his old slot, and basically Grodin from 95 to 96 a little onward, he became a really great political commentator on 60 Minutes, and he hosted a talk show. He actually had. I wish I could find a Tiki, but I just can't because it's just so obscure. The Charles Grodin show. It's unfortunate at this point that he actually had a reunion with Miss Piggy. Miss Piggy came on. She came on the
God,
Charles
that
show.
Like gold footage.
16 years later.
Oh man!
Right?
Oh, that sounds like so that's lost media now.
Yeah, it's
basically.
lost. unless you can find again. It's the Charles Grodin show.
I'm gonna actually attempt to look for that. Oh man!
I think it's in the 96 era of the show. I think the show ran from I want to say 95 to 98.
That sounds probably incredible.
So it's either in the first two seasons if you look for it, Tiki. All right, so but yes, that's something he impressed a lot of people. The Charles Grodin show, which ran on, I guess, for a couple seasons, and then that kind of went to they really liked talking to him, which kind of let's make him a commentator on CNN. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Or sorry, maybe not CNN. I think I'm getting my
60 Minutes is I believe CBS. I want to say
either CBS or CSNBC or something like that.
Because I remember watching 60 Minutes would come on right before The Amazing Race on Sundays. So yes, it was CBS.
Sure. So yeah.
Remember and then when we still had cable kids? Remember when that was a thing?
Okay, Tiki, were you able to look at any of the talk show appearances?
No.
Okay, let me. It's very simple. So, he was also really great in his talk show appearances, very Andy Kaufman-esque. But again, the talk shows were in on the bits, so it wasn't like completely like we're not throwing coffee on people and wigging out David Letterman. We're not doing that much. He was on. He would just have these wonderful bits, and he would always get letters of people saying, "Why you got to be so harsh on the talk show host? That Charles Grodin could have been a lot nicer, that host." But again, it was the gag. It was very clearly the gag.
Yeah, sure.
Where he was on Johnny Carson, he was point blank as he's promoting his book, and Johnny Carson would make jokes about the book, and he would say, "Do you even care about what I have to say? Do you even care?" And he was just great with the improv that would really throw Johnny Carson through the ringer and be really, really genius and really, really great. Again, the signature schwarminess. Swarminess. And again, it basically what Robert Downey Jr. does these days, but done back before it came into vogue. We love the glib celebrities giving the talk show host the business. And one time on David Letterman, he brought his lawyer on to David Letterman just as a great gag. God. This is my lawyer. I believe I've been slandered by Carol Burnett and Harvey Korman, who came on before and had a little oh, that Charles Grodin's kind of nutty, but it was a whole bit. It was wonderful. So Grodin, again, tons of laughs when he does the interview circuit. But thing I really want to talk about, though, he had a recurring guest spot on the show called Louie.
Yeah, no, of course, Louis C.K., kind of a controversial figure.
Yeah,
we don't
nowadays
really know him, but I don't necessarily it's a gray area for me. So I don't necessarily shun him either, but it's a gray area. I acknowledge it's a gray area with him.
I'm very arm's length with Louis C.K., so I'm just kidding.
Sure, but anyways, set this up, and I have some stuff to say about it.
Certainly. So Louis, essentially, from what I understand, he had this recurring bit as Louis C.K.'s doc. Now, Louis C.K., the whole Louis show is kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm for Louis C.K. It's pretty much the same.
Kind of the vibe I got, yeah.
Very much that, just a little bit more kind of, a little less broad and hilarious. I mean, it's funny, but just more clever funny. So,
Also, really quickly, Honeybee says says she's going to help with the search.
Well, we appreciate that, Honeybee. I don't think you're going to be successful. By all means, give it a shot. We'll sing your praises.
I'm going to try, man. I'm going to look this shit
Well,
up.
if you find it, send it to me because I also want to watch it.
I'm sure you do, Dragon. I'm sure you do. But
anyway, so he plays the medical doctor for Louis, Dr. Bigelow. Bigelow, I think. So he's kind of like he became this wise deadpan mentor figure to Louis, who would kind of give him random bouts of advice when he was kind of like bringing it up casually.
Is the reoccurring gag just that Louis gets too personal with him?
Yeah, that's like he's just going in there for like a check, and he was kind of like bring it up, and then he would.
Dragon, I love that because like I am totally Louis in this situation.
That was the cool thing. From what I've ever glimpsed of the Louis C.K. show, it kind of had that quality. Again, it's a more straightforward Curb Your Enthusiasm in that it's
like
less.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is very much like a niche sense of humor of like kind of like an upper class asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or in Louis' case, it's just kind of played a little bit more kind of a cappella comedy, if you will.
Right, yeah.
It's a little more just kind of. It's a little more just kind of like in our world than it is like just kind of in like Larry David's kind of exaggerated world, but still very recognizable world. But so yeah, basically, what occurs to me with the performance of this Dr. Bigelow character, and in the two clips I saw of him, is that it's a wizened Charles Grodin, where Charles Grodin, as the years have advanced, like I'm not saying his timing's off at all. I'm saying it's changed. His timing's evolved to basically
kind of has like an older Ted Danson sort of quality to him.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Yeah. That there's just sort of like there's a wizened humanist who's been around that kind of comes across there. Where this is a man who's basically summing up the human experience so colorfully with a dog. Essentially, is what he's doing. And I love the irony being that he's always walking his dog, in at least the scenes that I've seen. That he. I think it's so ironic, given the connection that Charles Grodin's had to the Beethoven franchise at its best, that he's giving this big kind of piece of kind of heartfelt advice through a really odd way with a three-legged dog. Yeah, kind of calls him my Beethoven a little bit. He says this wonderful way of summarizing the human experience.
It's oddly profound, Dragon.
I know. It's so It's like look, and again, it's so direct and to the point. That's what I'm saying with this timing, where the timing is it feels natural and it feels fast, but in a very different way. It just feels like wizened and like it just feels like reserved, a little more reserved than it usually is. And I really dug it. Where look at this dog. How many legs does it have? 3. Answer is has plenty of legs. If you see his face, see the dog's face, perfectly happy, waiting to see what comes next. The only thing to make it happier, a 4-legged dog. Yeah, it's great. There's like another thing too, where this is even more profound. I'm just going to summarize it like so: is that Louis is asking, has a girlfriend has moved away, and he's feeling kind of down about it. So he basically says, I'm missing her, and he's feeling heartbreak. Heartbreak? Well, that's love. What do you want it to be a fantasy?
I can totally get down with that. I can get down with that philosophy.
And he had a great line too, which is kind of like a nice tongue-in-cheek kind of thing to Grodin's career too. He's given his work with Disney. He says, "You want life to be a fantasy, a Disney ride? Is that what you want love to be? The bad part is when you forget about her and you don't care about anything. You enjoy heartbreak while you can. Essentially, heartbreak is love. Missing her is love. Really profound stuff, right? I mean, it's crazily profound."
Dragon, do you mind if I quote South Park with another profound love statement that really touches me and reminds me of that?
I mean, go for it.
So it's a Butters quote, and it's like, well, yeah, and I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm really happy something could make me feel that sad. It makes me feel alive, It makes me feel human. And the only way I could feel this sad now is if I felt something really good before. So it's kind of that basic philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I could absolutely that philosophy is always kind of like stuck with me. Yeah, so I can get down with that. So
basically, just kind of put a pin, just kind of round out what he's kind of done before we kind of wrap up here. So I mean, he popped up in kind of some small movie roles because he was really retired. He just had like bit parts. He had like a cute role in De Niro's movie The Comedian, which basically reunited him after 30 years since since like 29 years since Midnight Run, which is kind of cute. Like, and he still got on his nerves, which is the whole gag. It's kind of cute. But yeah, towards the end, though, it makes me really want to look into these next. He wrote some autobiographies and some memoirs, which I'm definitely probably going to look into. I had no idea he had memoirs. And, he had his causes through life. Like, he, as far back as 2011, while in life, he never watched himself in movies. Like, he was one of those actors, like, he just couldn't watch himself. The only movie he ever watched was Midnight Run. He did that because it was in conjunction with a Children's Health Fund charity. People donated money like to watch a movie with him, and that was Midnight Run. It's the only time he ever rewatched the movie.
Ah, nice.
And because he loved the experience, like he remembers like working with Miss Piggy, but never needed to go back and watch it.
Right.
So, and also the other cause, and then we'll move on. He was really big on advocacy for inmates in prison. Like, he either wrongfully accused or mistreated in prison. He was a very big advocate for the inmates in prison, which is really, really surprising, and really interesting. Also, given the Midnight Run of it all, again, the guy was kind of a criminal. It's kind of interesting.
Sure, I mean, a lot of celebrities are like that. Like, look at someone like Johnny Cash, for example. But yeah, I can see, for sure.
It's cool though. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't really hear that really reported since like the Johnny Cash days. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Johnny Cash is obviously the one that comes to mind. But yeah, I hear you. You. And I will say that I don't get too political on this podcast, but that is one of the things that I do think is kind of ridiculous in our country is the just how many people are imprisoned, like, falsely or otherwise. It's just a brutally abused system in America. But anyways,
it's got a lot of holes in it, to say the least.
Yeah. But
all right, so let's round things out, Tiki. Unless you had anything else, so let's.
No, I mean, I think you said it quite well. I love his kind of like evolution from like kind of schwarmy businessman with a heart of gold to just like like angry dad, essentially. I like his trajectory from like the sort of like the iconic 80s comedies into like iconic 90s kids movies. I feel like it's a nice arc of a career. And then, if the thoughtful stuff on Louis kind of being, a nice sort of punctuation at the end. So, I really think he's got a very interesting, very varied career. And I do think that proto David Spade thing holds up, Dragon. I really do.
It's a solid comparison. I think you're
like, because David Spade is obviously a little bit more obnoxious than Grodin ever was. But I do think that he has kind of like that whole like smarminess with a heart of gold.
I think Grodin had maybe a little bit more subtlety than David Spade.
Sure,
that's the only thing. But I think that's the delineation. I think you're right on that. So I mean, so I guess for me, just in closing, for me, it's that while in life, I don't think Charles Grodin's work was fully appreciated. The man, anywhere you look, though, the man was quite beloved. He was quite beloved. Grodin was ahead of his time and next level with the comedy and with the improv, with the timing, and the man threw everything into a performance. It's why I love him. Threw everything into the performance. He made us believe he was teetering on the edge of madness. He also made us believe he was in love with a pig, and it worked. and most importantly, I think most importantly though, he made us fall in love with him. While he's falling in love with pigs, we're falling in love with him, falling in love with pigs. And it's like roles in classics like Great Muppet Caper and Midnight Run. They've woven themselves into the fabric of film and pop culture. He just made it look so easy and smooth. And I'm going to miss him terribly because much like the end of Midnight Run, he came into our lives. He gave us an adventure with laughs and a bit of heart. And just when we come around and love him, he's gone. See you on the other side, Chuck.
All right, Dragon. That was kind of a depressing way to end things out. So why don't you punctuate it with a Great Muppet Caper quote, just for good measure?
All right. I smell ketchup all over my cummerbund.
There we go. All right. Have a good night, folks. Oh, and really quick, thanks, Honey Bee, for sticking it out with us in the comments the whole time. Really appreciate it. All right. Have a good night, folks.
The other side.